I hope everybody can hear me. If you can, just respond in the chat with yes. If no, just respond with a no. Okay, great. So let's start. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good evening, good afternoon, whichever part of the world you are in. Thank you very much for attending this workshop. It's the first of its kind workshop that talks about how someone can actually be an entrepreneur. Because getting into entrepreneurship is a concept that needs to be understood. And for you to understand that concept, there's a process that you need to follow. So today, we will basically go through that process. So just follow the slides and listen to what I'm saying here, okay? Okay, is everybody hearing me, or I can see some of you are having a problem? Okay, so I'll proceed. Now, let me start by telling you a little bit about myself. I currently am a CEO of Dow Capital, which is a venture capital fund. We are primarily investing in the UK and America. We've already invested in around 16 opportunities. I head that as co-founder and CEO. Previously, I worked for British Telecom. It's a Forbes 500 company. I used to work for a number of family businesses, and I also headed a media and public relations company in the past as well. Some of these startups that I have engaged in, both as an investor and a board member, are today doing fairly well. Right at the top, the one that you see, What 3 Words, is a digital mapping addressing system that is currently competing with Google Maps. And people like Mercedes, Intel Capital, Aramex, Sony Music are investors in it, and thankfully I'm there as well. And I'm also on the board, besides the others that you see on this slide. I'm glad to say that this workshop, in a very short amount of time, has managed to develop and create so much interest that I have attendees on this workshop from 17 different countries and around 94 different cities around the world. In fact, I could only accommodate 500 people, and the rest, I will try and accommodate them in the next workshop as soon as I do it. I would like to thank Alia Dalvai, for all her help that she has given, and Monis, who's also been very, very supportive. Thank you, both of you. So first of all, I'd like everybody to start taking notes, and I hope you have your notepad and pen, so that you can basically take some interesting notes and take. Okay, I think most of you are complaining of not hearing, so let me just try and shift.
It's not your fault. It's their browser.
Okay, can you hear me now, everyone?
Those who can't hear need to switch off and switch on.
All right, the ones who can't hear me need to log off and log on again. You need to get back into webinar one more time so you can start listening clearly, okay?
Google Chrome.
Go to Google Chrome. Okay, so we'll continue with the workshop because we're limited with time here. This session will be recorded and will be forwarded to everybody as well later. So this is what we're going to do today in our workshop. We have 3 different phases, which are very important phases. The first one is ideation. This is where you come up with the idea. Any startup, any new business needs to begin with the idea. And usually it is the idea that decides whether you're going to be successful, whether you have a journey, or whether this is just an exciting thing that will fizzle out within a few days, few weeks, or maybe a month or so. So what do you do And how do you come up with a good idea? There are ways of coming up with a good idea. How do you validate this idea? And then how do you start a business? And that's how we're going to go through this whole process today. So you need to first understand what are the ways of coming up with a good idea. They're very simple ways, but those are the ways you need to follow. This workshop will take you in the following stages. This is very, very important for everybody to understand. First is today's workshop, which is you're attending this workshop, and we'll go through all the slides together. After this, you will submit to me your startup ideas as per what you have learned in this workshop. Then I will shortlist the startups that I think are interesting enough to attend another session with me to basically take you further in your journey of creating a new startup business. And finally, the ones who are finalists will have to make a 2-minute pitch, a video pitch, on my FB page so that we can present it to investors, including myself as well. And then those are the people that will be shown or presented to investors in the future. Now, bear in mind, this workshop is geared for people who want to be entrepreneurs. I'm sure there are a lot of people today attending who have already started their business ideas or their startup ideas. They can learn from this workshop which areas they haven't focused on, and they need to probably revisit that. So this is what our workshop is all about today. So the first step, how do you come up with a successful idea, right? That's what everybody keeps telling me. How do I make this $1 million company? Well, there is a way to it. So this is how it is. The first step is you need to realize what is the skill you're good at. So let's say you're a banker, all right? So if you're a banker, you've been working in a bank for all your life. You know how the process works. You know what the customers are looking for. You know what your bosses are doing wrong. You know what systems can be shortened. You know what processes can be made lesser or disappear completely. You know what is offline and what is online and how all of that can be put together in an online process. So you're probably the best guy or the best person to come up with a fintech startup idea because you understand how banks work, right? So you need to come up with a startup idea that matches your skill. Okay? So this is the first way of coming up with a good startup idea. Something that is closer to your skill set. Something that makes you feel strong about what you're thinking about. Okay? It's not like you're a banker and you want to launch a bakery. You're a baker and you want to launch something else. Okay? So let's go to the next step. The next way of coming up with a good idea is we all face problems in our life, all right? The problems that keep bothering us for a very long time. So for example, everybody complains about, oh, I was stuck in traffic. Like, what do you do when you're stuck in traffic? How do you reduce traffic? What can you do to reduce traffic? So most good ideas, most successful startup ideas come from problems that people face. Those entrepreneurs faced this problem for a very, very long time. And after that, they thought, let me resolve this problem. So what they do is they sit and they start thinking about a solution. So you have to see which problem that you've been facing for a very long time and how you can sort that problem out. So that problem can be the seed of your new transformative business idea. Okay, the first is your skills, to use your skills to create a new startup idea. The second is a problem that you've been suffering from for a very long time and you want to solve it. So what's the third? The third is actually very, very simple. There's a lot of successful businesses around you today. And these successful businesses need to be supported. So for example, there's a mobile store that's running very well in your street or in your neighborhood. Now, what does that mobile store need? It needs another business to support it. So maybe you can launch that little spare parts services company that a mobile subscriber would need, and that mobile shop business would thrive because you have a service station close by. So you need to look at a successful brand and then see how you can support it. That's a very easy way of coming up with a startup idea. You have to look at the trends that the world is going through at the moment. So currently, if you look at everything from groceries, food, medicine, laundry, everything is online. All you need to do is look at what's not online. What is there that's not currently online and can be put online and made into a good business, right? Very, very simple. But guess what? It can be a great successful startup idea. So you need to look about what is happening around you, which is not in the online space, and you can put it on an online business and make it work. 5, this is actually very interesting, and I say it in a lot of my lectures. There's a lot of stuff that we are surrounded by that hasn't changed for years, right? So I've given you an example here on this slide. A lock, a door lock, right? This door lock has been in place for like hundreds of thousands of years, since the days of maybe Julius Caesar. And it took one little guy to come up with that idea called a smart lock. So it's still a lock, but technology was used and it became a smart lock. So you no longer need a key, you enter using a code. So I could send you a code and say you can go to my house, get my house clean, and then go back out. All right? So you can use technology to transform a lot of the old things that are surrounding us and make it into a business. So you need to basically look around you and see what's there and what you can change using new technology. One of the most easiest ways of making a good startup idea is coming up with a cheaper version. So if you look at most of the e-commerce industry, that's what it thrives on, right? Why do you buy stuff on Amazon? Because it's cheap, because it's convenient. But cheap is bigger than the convenient factor. If it was only about convenience, then it would be good. But if it's cheap and convenient, it becomes complete, right? So try looking at stuff that you can do and offer to customers in a cheaper version. Excuse me. I'm sorry, guys. I've been suffering from a flu since the last few days, so kind of struggling with my voice here. But okay. Anyway, so one more time, I'll just go through the startup ideas that you can come up with. First is you look at your skill set and you try to build a business idea based on the skills that you have. Second is you look at a problem that you've been suffering with for a very long time and you think you have an answer to that problem. Third is look at a successful business brand and try to provide service to that successful business brand, making it your startup idea. Fourth is look at trends that will change the world. There's a lot that is changing and it could change further. See if you can pick up on this trend and come up with a startup idea. Fifth is a lot of the things that we are surrounded by for thousands of years, hundreds of years, millions of years, you can change it by using new technology, and that could be your new startup idea. Making things cheaper for people, for consumers, is a very good way of coming up with a good startup idea. Now, all of that needs to be validated. You should always remember this, that if you can't validate something, then everything that you're doing is not going to be worth it. So you have to validate it. Now, how do you validate a good startup business idea? First is you need to talk to a lot of people, and this is a genuine mistake that most startup entrepreneurs do, and that is why very soon they start looking at failure, and very much later after that they actually meet failure. You need to talk to people. You need to ask people whether your idea is actually a good one. So let's say you came up with an idea to launch a new online store. Well, guess what? It's a great idea, but until people think it's a great idea, you will not have a marketplace. So you need to ask people before you launch something. Most startup entrepreneurs begin their business ideas, launch their business plans, even before validating those ideas. So it's very important that you go through this step of validation very carefully and in a lot of details. So I suggest that you talk to at least 100 people to ask them whether your idea makes sense. And what you do is you don't talk to family and friends. The people that you talk to are complete strangers. Why? Because strangers will give you honest opinions. Your friends and family will not. Okay? So you need to talk to at least 100 people and ask them what you're thinking of launching as a good idea. Is it really a good idea? Okay? And whatever you talk, the survey that you do, register it. I want you to make sure that all the comments all the feedback that you get from these people, you register it somewhere. Why? Because if you don't register it, you can't go back and check what happened, what did people actually say, what was I talking about, and how did they react to it. Now, whatever feedback that you get, if 80% of it or more is saying that this is a great idea, that means you're working on a good plan. That means your startup concept is a good one. All right? So you need to your success ratio needs to be more than 80% from that research survey that you do once you start making a very concise effort to talk to people. Now, once you talk to people and you've got like 80% positive response, what you need to also ask them is, will they be willing to pay for your new startup idea? All right? This is a good time to set up your revenue model, because your business is depending on what your revenue model is or it isn't. So for example, you have big brands today like Snapchat, Facebook, and the others. They all started off with providing a free service, right? So there was no revenue there. It was all about adopting more customers. So it's called customer acquisition strategy. Now you need to know whether people think that your business idea, your new startup idea, is worth paying some money for, or are they willing to just use it because it's good, but they're not willing to pay for it. Okay? So you need to set up your revenue model at that time. So when you're talking to these people, trying to validate the idea, ask them also whether they will be willing to pay for this or no. And if they're willing to pay for it, how much are they going to pay for it? Because that gives you your perceived market value for your business idea. Okay? I guess once you've completed this, so you've decided which part of your startup idea you're comfortable doing with, then you validated your idea by talking to at least 100 people. Then you figured out the revenue model, whether people are willing to pay for it or they're not willing to pay for it. If they're willing to pay for it, how much are they willing to pay for it? Now you're pretty much ready to set up your business together. So now you need to start creating or constructing your business proposition. How do you do that? So the first thing you need to know is whatever that you choose to do. So let's assume that you are in the industry of food and beverages. So what you launched was a F&B app. You need to talk to customers who use an F&B app to order food. You need to ask them what are the features that they would like, that they would be more impressed with. So let's assume if all the food apps are providing A, B, and C option, you can ask them, would you, Mr. Customer, be glad if I offered D, E, and F as an option as well? So you need to get a lot of feedback from customers who use a similar industry or a similar sector proposition, so that when you are presenting your startup idea, people begin to react to it positively because they can see a lot more benefits. You need to create traction. Traction is very, very important. Without traction, people will not be willing to take your business further. Always remember, your startup business idea can only succeed when you keep customers happy, when you have repeat business, when you have the ability to build more customers, and where more customers can keep coming on. They cannot keep coming on to your business until you have something in there that makes a lot of sense. And it makes a lot of sense for a very, very long time. Okay? So how do you create traction? So whatever you're doing, it has to be something that people would want to use. So for you to do that, you need to create a sort of a pilot, something that people can test, something that people can interact with. So if you did a food app, for example, then what they will do is you will give them the food app for, let's say, a week and say, hey, why don't you try ordering your food from my app and I will let you use it for free. Let's say you were doing this little roadside restaurant. You want people to come in and try your food. Great, you will do a 1 week free food tasting session where people will come in and try in your burgers or your pizza and give you feedback, because getting that feedback creates a lot of traction. Because until and unless people can actually know what you're selling, they wouldn't know what to buy. Okay, so creating traction is very important. And by the way, this is usually the first phase of your real business construction, because this is the first money you're going to spend. This is the first round of funding that you would need to raise. And this is the bare minimum. That is why I always tell startup entrepreneurs that when they go looking for big numbers to raise big money, you don't need to raise big money. You need to go small first, make it work, go further small, make it work again, then you go big. All right? Most people try to just create a pilot and then go big. You shouldn't do that, because you're creating a bigger appetite and there is no demand for your product in the market. So you need to go small at this stage. Now, this is an interesting concept. It's called selling castles in thin air. Now, everybody can't do this, but the ones who can should try and do this. Now, what happens is there are certain businesses, certain startup ideas that actually do not need any funding. So what happens there is that, let's say you have a business idea, and your business idea is about this new electronic e-bike. Okay, it's an environment-friendly bike. And there is no bike. It's still an idea. You have a very good slide show. You have a very good presentation. You have defined the bike very clearly to people, that this is what the handle will do. This is how the wheels are made. This is how much speed it will catch. This is how environment friendly it is. And this is the comfort it will give you. This is how healthy it will make you be. All of that is on a PowerPoint slideshow. And what you do is you try to sell the product on the slide itself. And you tell the customer, would you like to buy this bike? And guess what? There are a lot of people doing that. That's what Kickstarter is all about, right? You put in an idea, and there are enough people out there who look at that idea and say, hey, what? I love this idea. I'd really like to invest in this idea. So what they're doing is they're actually buying a product that's still not produced in the ideation stage, and they actually pay you for it. And then you create the product maybe 2 months later, maybe a year later, but people wait for it. So this actually happens. Selling castles in thin air actually happens. And this is a good step for you new startup entrepreneurs to consider, that you don't need to raise lots of money, in fact, no money. You just need to come up with a perfect idea, a good product, a good service, and guess what? People will pay you in advance for it. So that's what castle in thin air selling is all about. Now, you need to do a business plan. Why do you need to do a business plan? Now, if you have a business plan, number one, you begin to understand all the details of what you're doing. All right? So you understand how much in terms of cost you will need to put in, how much in terms of revenue you're expecting. Then you look at numbers from the market. Now, business plan is not just about your expenses and your revenue. Business plan is also about the market. So, for example, there are people who come up to me, startup entrepreneurs, and say, Mr. Abdullah, my business is just like Uber. Well, guess what? It's not. All right? Your business is your business, and Uber's business is Uber's business. So if you're launching a business, excuse me, I need to know where you're going to sell this business. So if you say my marketplace, for example, is in India, well, I'll refuse it. Why? Because you're not being very direct. You're not being focused. Your business plan needs to show to me which part of India are you planning to sell first. Your business plan needs to show to me which city or town in that state are you trying to sell to first. Excuse me. What are the ages of your customers? What are the genders of your customers? What is the kind of income groups you're targeting? I need to see all of that in your business plan, not just expenses and revenue. What most people do is just put expenses and revenue. Sorry. And they try to make it work. It doesn't work, because if you do just a normal Excel sheet and show me incremental increase in your expected revenue, it's just a dream. It never happens. You need to be more precise, and that is why you need to take your time to develop your business idea. You need to take your time to develop your business plan. Why? Because there's a lot of input that takes a lot of detailing, and that is usually time consuming. So don't be in a hurry to launch your startup idea, because the ones who launch in a hurry fall in a hurry. Okay? And always try to take help of a trained financial expert. Each one of us has a network. In our network, we will have somebody who works in finance, understands accounts, and can help us out. So take their help. Marketing. Now, marketing is very, very important, but always remember, you can't market something that people can't understand. Most people try to oversell an idea just because they believe in it. Markets don't buy things because you believe in something. They buy things because it makes sense. All right, you need to understand that, and you need to understand that very carefully. Startup businesses fail because they think they know what they're doing without realizing that they need the customers to know what they're doing. So good marketing can either break your company or make your company. But you always need to realize the saying that, a great salesman can sell ice to an Eskimo. Of course he can. But guess what? He still needs ice. If he doesn't have ice in his hands, there's nothing to sell to the Eskimo, right? So make sure you spend enough time creating your product, creating your service. Don't be in a hurry. The team plays an important role. Why does it play an important role? Because the team decides a lot of the energies that are created within a company. So you need to make sure that the team that you have is the right team. And just because you're the founder of the business, you're the founder of this startup business, doesn't mean you're the right person to fit the role of a CEO. A CEO is an industry-specific person, a person who has experience, who has the knowledge, who has the ability to take that business forward. Maybe you're not the right guy. So you could be a CEO, or you could not be a CEO. You could just be the founder of the idea. You could sit on the board and let somebody else who has the experience do the job. So make sure that the team that you have is the right team. Now, of course, the most interesting part is funding, right? So everybody talks about funding. Where will I get money for my business? How can I launch my business without money? Startup business enterprise needs money. If I don't have anybody to support me, how can I start up any business? Well, actually, you're wrong. I just explained to you earlier that there's a lot of things that you can do and sell it just on a PowerPoint slide. You don't need any money to make a PowerPoint slide, right? You have a laptop. And guess what? You have ideas, put them on the slides. Make sure that they're very, very interesting. People invest in something that makes sense. People don't invest in excitement. Get that into your heads. So I don't believe what most entrepreneurs believe in, that money is a major prerequisite. It's not. What is a major prerequisite is that your idea is complete and it makes sense. Your idea, your startup idea has to be complete and it has to make sense. How is that possible? With what I just told you earlier. Talk to at least 100 people. Make sure that they validate your idea before you take it to market. You still have different areas from where you can get funding. So first thing, you bootstrap, all right? You put in your own money. Until you put your own money into anything, you can't take it seriously. You just will not take your business idea seriously at all, all right? Now, the other area is that your friends, your family, people who like you, people who support your idea can give you either a loan or they can invest with you. Once you are in Series A or B, there will be investors, angel investors, venture capital funds who would be interested in your business idea. So you need to basically look at those options. But first, you need to bootstrap. You need to put something from your side to make this very important to you. Can somebody click pictures, please? Crowdfunding is a very big source of funding, and like I mentioned earlier, Kickstarter is a very good platform. There are other such platforms in other parts of the world. In India, they have their own. In America, of course, there are plenty of them. In Europe as well. Asia is also creating its own sort of Kickstarter platforms. This platform allows you, the startup entrepreneur, the project initiator, to present your idea and show what is the fund that you need. And then there will be a group of regular people out there who like your idea. So let's say you're making this new watch that is unbelievable, that's fantastic, and people like the idea of having that watch. So what you will do is you will say, hey, listen, I need to raise $100,000 to produce 1,000 of these watches. So 1,000 people will actually bid for it, and they will say, hey, Mr. Entrepreneur, I'd like to be one of the 100 people who takes this watch. So can I please give in my commitment? And the platform, Kickstarter, basically connects you, the idea initiator, and these investors together on one platform. So crowdfunding is a very good platform for raising funds. As a startup entrepreneur, the one person or people that you need very, very importantly in your journey as a startup business owner is mentors. Now, mentors are very important, but be very careful because some of these mentors are actually not good for you. Why? Because they don't have time for you. You think that this mentor is a very successful person. If I have him on my board, that's very good. Well, it's very good as long as he can give you time, as long as he can contribute, as long as he or she can make a difference to your business enterprise. If they can't, then there is very little that this mentor can actually do for you. So you need to choose your mentors very well. You actually qualify them. They may be higher in stature and success than you are. They may be higher in experience and track record than you are. But guess what? You still need to qualify them. You just can't take them on a face-saving basis. All right? So make sure that you take mentors who can give you time. Okay? Not just share a coffee with you. You have to plan your mentor's engagement very well. You need to schedule weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly meetings with them based on their comfort, of course. And you need to allocate time. You need to take from them 30 minutes, 45 minutes, because their input is going to be crucial for you because they'll bring in a lot of experience. Some of these mentors can also be non-executive directors on your board. Why? Because their profile helps elevate your business enterprise. And sometimes you're free to give them free equity for being mentors or being board members because it makes sense to your business, right? So if you had somebody who's an ex Microsoft or who's a current Google guy and you think that this person on your board gives you more credibility in the market, gives you more credibility while raising money, all right, do it. Give them some free equity. It's your choice. It's not a requirement, but it's your choice. But make sure you choose your mentors correctly. So let's once again go back to where we started. Where is this workshop going to take you? And why is it important for you to understand what this workshop can do for you? All right. So today's session, we discuss in broad terms how you can be an entrepreneur. After this session, in the last slide, I will leave for you my contact details. You need to submit to me your startup business idea. Now, bear in mind, until and unless you follow the process that I've said, which is you need to validate your business idea. You need to tell me, how did you come up with this startup idea? Is it because you are a banker, so you started a fintech company? Is it because you were facing a problem and you need to define for me what that problem was? Then you need to tell me that you validated that this problem was accepted by more than 100 people, that this is a problem and your solution is a great idea. I will not entertain anything unless it follows the process. Why? I have seen a lot of startup businesses fail because people are in a hurry. I don't know why is everybody in a hurry. You want to succeed? Well, guess what? Success comes with time. Success comes with patience. Why? Because time allows you to fulfill the details that you need to prepare before you reach success. So until and unless you follow what I'm telling you today and then submit me your ideas, I will not entertain them. So I'm telling you in advance. Once you've done that, I will go through it thoroughly. I will spend a lot of time with all of you who spend the time with me. My respect for you is the respect that you give me. The respect I need from you is that you just follow this whole process in a manner by which I'm explaining to you. Okay? So then I will create a short list and I will say, these people are the people that I want to take to another session. What is this other session? This other session is helping you shape up that startup idea into something that can be taken to a business situation. Okay? So I'll tell you how to tweak up your plans. I will tell you how to further validate your business idea. I might tell you to change your strategy. I might tell you to bring in another founder, co-founder. I might tell you that what you think you need to raise money is not the right number. You need to go with this or that. I'll give you a lot of details that will help you shape up. After that, all of those who've been shortlisted, you need to pack all of that into a 2-minute pitch video. That 2-minute pitch video will be on my page. Why? Because there are other VCs and other investors who are waiting to see which good ideas come out of this workshop. All right? So this workshop is supposed to give birth to an amazing number of good ideas. This is the first time we are trying this online. We normally do this offline. We visit startup entrepreneur incubators or accelerators. But this is the first time I'm trying to do this at your comfort. You're sitting home, you're sitting in your office, you're in a dining table, wherever you are, at your comfort. And I need for you to be very, very positive with this because you are in the most comfortable situation you can be. Okay? There is no intimidation here. This is completely something that should give birth to something very exciting. So once you've gone through all of this, then we'll make that 2-minute pitch video. Again, I will help you with that as well. I'll help you understand how to do your pitch, how to make a strong image for yourself. And then finally, all of those finalists will be asked to discuss and present to a panel of investors. And inshallah, hopefully, some of you, all of you, may get investments. All right? So you all need to understand something, which is a philosophy in my life, that I get a lot of times told that, oh, Mr. Abdullah, I've worked so hard for this. I spent sleepless nights. I've worked over so many weekends. I didn't have personal time. Well, guess what? Hard work does not get you success. Right work gets you success. So if you worked hard, don't come and tell me that. If you worked right, I will tell you that. I will tell you that you worked correctly. Why? Because the results will show. So the next stage will be decided by me because I'm trying to pick up very good ideas from newcomers like you and trying to make them into successful startup business enterprises. Now, on this page, on this slide, you all have my emails, my FB page, my Instagram page, and my LinkedIn page. Whoever feels that they need to reach me, they need to reach me using this mode of communication. Now, for the next 20 to 30 minutes, I will be taking questions. So please type your questions and I'll try to answer them one at a time, as many as I can at the moment. So go for it. Well, the difference from how it between when you pitch in different events and this is that in this particular workshop, you're being asked to look at everything right in the beginning, from the stage of developing an idea. When you go pitch to investors in events, you already have an idea. So there's very little that you can actually change at that stage. Here, I'm helping you build a good idea from the beginning. I'm validating that good idea right at the beginning. You don't get that time, that stage in a live event. Yes, Bilal Murad has asked me a question um, about talking to 100 people about your idea. Usually he says, he's not very comfortable doing that. Well, listen, if you want to launch your own business, the one thing you need to do is come out of your comfort zone. You need to start talking to people. And the best way to do that is a simple exercise. If you ever catch a bus or a train, what you do is whoever is sitting next to you, start a conversation with that person. For no apparent reason, just start a conversation. Say, hi, how are you doing? Did you watch the game, yesterday's game, Barcelona versus whoever, Liverpool trash Manchester United 5-0 or something of that. So start a conversation with total strangers. Get that whole barrier thing out of your way. Make sure that there's no barrier between you and anybody else. Because if you want to be successful entrepreneurs, you do not need to have this as a problem that you can't talk to people. Okay? So try breaking those barriers and then you will hopefully overcome. No, Arish Sayed has asked me whether I have a deadline for submission of ideas. No, I don't. You're free to send them whenever. What I suggest everybody does is send me first your comments on what you think you learned today. Second, send me what you think is your approach to starting a new idea. Is it your skill set? Is it a problem you face? Is it a cheaper idea? What is it? Okay, what is your idea based on? Based on that, then we'll start engaging with each other, and then I would probably help you understand how you can go to the next stage. Okay, Namita, your idea about Ayurvedic drug manufacturers, great, as long as I understand a little bit more detail about why that business is important and how it could be important to customers. So probably you can share that with me, and then I can basically tell you whether what you're thinking needs to be in a different way or it's completely at the right track. Let's go ahead. All right, Tawfiq Wali has asked me how all your ideas can be secured. So what I suggest you do is that when you send me anything, send it to me on an email and make sure you say that this idea belongs to you and not to me or not to anybody else. But bear in mind, people, maybe your idea may be completely similar to 10 other ideas. So there's nothing copyrighted here. And if there is something that you think deserves a copyright, I suggest that you first get a copyright done and then you talk to me.
I think he means how to achieve the idea, not secure.
Which is the most effective business in the upcoming year? Mushtaba asked me this question. Honestly, I can't say because it all depends on what you feel strongly about. If you felt strongly about footwear, you could be the next Skechers in town. If you felt strongly about electric cars, you could be the next Uber in town. If you're, a Tesla in town, sorry. It all depends on what you're feeling strongly about. What is your startup appetite? Samad Karim has talked about an organic product that he wants to sell online. Well, until and unless you show me the details of your plan in terms of how you're planning to produce it, how you're planning to store it, how you're planning to package it, who are your competition in the market, how much you're planning to sell it. Guys, you have to all realize that every business can only be understood with details and not with headlines. Anthony has asked a similar question about when you validate the idea to many people, isn't there a risk of the idea going out? Well, there's a huge risk if you didn't ask. If you didn't ask, Anthony, then what would happen is you would launch a business thinking what you're doing is correct and complete. And guess what? That is the reason why 90% of all startups fail, because they don't validate. So I can understand your fear, your idea of being caged about what you're doing, but then you're just relying on investor funds. If you're only relying on investor funds, then your chances of surviving for a long time are very limited, very, very limited. So most startups that I met or I meet or I come across have this as a problem, that they lack business fundamentals, which is no revenue models at all. Another thing is most ideas, or rather some ideas, are too early, which means they were not cooked properly. They didn't take a lot of time building them. It was just a couple of weeks, a few months, and they launched it. You can't do that. So these are some of the struggles that I face when I meet startup entrepreneurs. Rashida Fatima has asked me on giving some tips for starting a restaurant business. Now, the restaurant business is a very interesting one because I have Parvez Hamdullah here, who is, I believe, a very well-known restaurateur in Dubai. He can probably give a lot more interesting ideas on this. But just on a general note, Rashida, restaurant business is about two things. It's about the food you put on the table, and it's about how you manage to consistently keep the quality and taste of that food. That will make sure that the restaurant business that you have will survive, will sustain, and will grow. Always remember that you always go to eat in places where the food is good, not where the food is cheap. So in food business, you can't really apply the concept of cheap product. You need to go with good quality hygienic product. So you need to do that. Now the startup size that we're looking at is seed level. It's pretty much bootstrap. So we're looking at ideas that need initial funding of $10,000 to $15,000, nothing more than that. Why? Because exactly what I said right in the beginning. This workshop is only for entrepreneurs who are right in the beginning, which means they want to be entrepreneurs, but they don't really know how to begin. So I'm supposed to help them begin with their whole entrepreneurship journey. So that stage, you don't really need a lot of money. There's going to be another session that I'll do a little later, which is for entrepreneurs who have started their journeys and then are looking for funds based on their midterm journey stage. So there, I'm sure it will be a little bit more than $10,000 to $15,000. Arsh Mukadam asks me, what is more important, an idea, timing, or team? Very, very good question, Arsh. This is a brilliant question. I want everybody to listen to the question one more time and then pay attention to my idea, to my answer. What is more important, an idea, timing, or team? Idea, timing, or team? Guess what's more important? The most important is timing. You all know Facebook because Facebook is now successful. But guess what? Before Facebook launched, there were at least 3 different concepts similar to it, but the time was not right. There was no internet penetration that dominant in the world for a concept like Facebook to succeed. Facebook succeeded only because of its timing. So timing is very important before you decide what you need to do in startup business idea. Okay, Muhammad Kafiyutullah, I haven't quite understood your question. So if you want to rewrite your question, I could probably answer that. But if I understood your question about, you are probably thinking about the stress of quitting your job and doing a startup idea. Well, startup business is only for those who can give it 100% time. If you can't give it 100% time, you cannot do a startup idea. I've been a strategist almost all my life. I don't have time to launch a startup. I'm an investor, I run a fund, but many people ask me, where's your startup? I can't launch one. Why? I don't have time. I have lots of ideas, but I don't have time. So if you can't have time, dedicated time, don't do this. You're better off working for someone, okay? So it's not about quitting your job is riskier Okay, what happens after I leave my job? No, that's not the question. The question is, how important is this whole thing about launching a new business for you? Is this something that is supposed to be a life-changing event? If it's not, don't do it. Stick to your job. Go work for someone, better off. But if you want to do business, you have to do business 100%. If you don't focus on that 100%, then you're definitely going to have trouble. Zarar has asked me about his new ERP system that he's planning to launch in schools and colleges. What is the tips? Well, obviously this is in India, Zarar. If it is in India, then all I would advise you is you need to understand that if you're selling to government schools, you need to know people within the government system before they buy anything. If you're selling to private schools, you need to understand that it is the trustees, which is appointed by the owners, who take decisions on behalf of the owners. So you need to get your marketing or your sales strategy correct before you think about the technology part. The technology part is the easy part. Implementing an ERP solution for you is probably the most easiest thing. Selling is the most difficult part. So first make sure that you have enough sales leads that you can convert into sales before you launch your business, okay? Noor Ahmed again asked me the same thing, that there's a threat of your idea being stolen. Listen, if you're not convinced with the idea of validation, then you can keep your idea to yourself and you can go ahead and launch the business. But then if there is failure, then you're the only one responsible for it. So you have to weigh in your risk versus reward. Your risk of your idea being stolen is there, but the reward of having validation is much bigger than the risk of your idea being stolen, guys. Sagar has asked me what happens if a person doesn't have the first and second type of funding opportunity, which is you're talking about bootstrap and you're talking about friends and family supporting you, right, Sagar? Well, okay, that's what I said. You don't really need funding if you have a great idea. You can sell something on your slides. You have a great idea, go to Kickstarter, put it on, and then people will basically invest in you. That's what crowdfunding is all about. Crowdfunding is a platform where you go with an idea. Your idea is explained in categorical detail. It has to be completely explained, design-wise, customer feel-wise, user experience-wise. Only then will people find it interesting. If I suggest all of you go to Kickstarter at least once and try to see what's happening there. See what people are putting up there. See the interaction between entrepreneurs, people who have ideas, and people who are wanting to invest. And you will understand how that cycle works. That way you will know what is a crowdfunding platform and how it can work for you. And that's why you don't need to raise any money from anywhere. Jakub Solker has put in a comment on launching an engineering consulting business which matches his skill set. Yes, it could be very interesting. It all depends on where you're selling it. Are you selling it to a market that you know, or are you selling it to a market that you do not know? So you need to first understand that your strengths of knowing the business is good, but you should also know the marketplace. So for example, if you are, because I know you're an engineer working here in Kuwait, and if you're trying to sell your consulting idea to Malaysia, if you don't have customers in Malaysia, then you're just trying to get lucky. So you may have a startup idea that matches your skill set, but you also need to have a marketplace that you're very comfortable to, that you can create traction with, okay? Muhammad Ahtisham says, my idea regarding helping students for their academic works. Muhammad, it's a very good idea. There are a lot of people doing that. I think you need to create for yourself a niche to see how students can be helped in their academic studies. You need to make up a revenue model, whether this is going to be free. I suggest it should be free. If it is free, you will create a lot of traction. Alimuddin wants to start a laundry business. If it's online or offline, everything depends on what you're trying to do, Alim. If you send me some details, then I can help you understand whether it's a good idea or you need to work on it more. If a person has already started. Hidayatullah, I didn't understand your question. If a person is already started a venture on his own, how can this benefit him? You need to explain the question, please. Yes, Sayed. The presentation is finished. We are going through the question and answer session. The slides or the recording of this will be mailed to all of you later. Muhammad Kifayatullah has a business idea there. Yes, I cannot really reply to something until I see the detail. You all have to understand, listen, if you have a business idea, that's great, but the business idea is workable or not workable based on details. So the details are what? The details are, how do you plan to launch this? The details are, who is the one who's taking it to the market? The details are, who are your customers? Have you done enough work trying to understand where your customers are? Have you looked at your competition? Have you looked at the price barrier that exists in the market? Are you trying to create a niche or are you following a trend? It all depends on that. So I can't really reply to top line questions like that. Excuse me. Akshay has a event aggregator business. If you want to monetize that, Akshay, you need to first give me some more details about what your revenue model is. You need to share with me your idea of business and how it fits into a missing link in the existing marketplace, and then I can definitely try and support you. Omar asks, how can one obtain copyright? All you need to do, Omar, is Google. You'll find a lawyer within your city, and that lawyer can tell you. It's called IPR, Intellectual Property Rights, and they can explain to you better. Can you go down, please? What is the procedure to submit idea validation? The procedure, Munaf Sheikh, to submit idea validation is to mail me what your idea is and who are the 100 people that you have talked to and what was their response. Lakshmikant, how do you do copyrights? Again, Google for a lawyer that says copyrights or IPR, intellectual property rights. Ahmed says net working capital in any project is very important. You're right, and maybe you're not right. Right, because it all depends on what your project is. Does your project need net working capital? If your project does not need net working capital, then it just does not apply to you. Dr. Wasim, nice to see you here. Your question about how to develop a strong value proposition and a demand generation strategy. A value proposition is actually exactly what it says. What is the value that you're offering to a customer? How do you know that? You talk to enough customers. When you go through the validation stage, you're talking to enough customers. Those customers will tell you what they believe is the value in your business. If you say that I'm providing you services on MRI and X-ray, and I'm also giving you an online report on your mobile phone. Now, the customer might find that as valuable, and most customers might think that as the most valuable asset within your whole value chain. So customers decide what value propositions are all about. And to do that, again, you need to talk to enough customers. Muhammad Shahnawaz Hussain has an idea, startup idea on signal processors for radars. Muhammad, obviously, from what you're discussing, this is a very specific engineering business idea, which you have sufficient amount of knowledge from an academic standpoint. I think you need to now develop enough knowledge from a commercial standpoint. So you need to look at who are your customers and what are they looking for, what is existing in the market, and how you can take it to the next stage. Share with me some ideas. Hopefully I can be of help to you. Mustafa Yassin Abdul Bari says, do we need capital amount to start up a business? I don't know, because maybe your idea is consulting, and consulting needs only you. It's your time, so you don't need big capital. Maybe the only capital you need is to do a website and make business cards. Can you just give me a tissue there? Okay, Divyani has said that she has an idea to manufacture nanoparticles, as it is her skill, but she knows a few applications. How to really find the need? Well, you need to first do a little bit more research on that marketplace. There's a lot of people who are in the nanoparticles business already. You need to look at what they're doing, which markets are they targeting, and how can you do something better than what they're doing. You can share with me some of your ideas. Hopefully I can help you. Fazil Fayaz has said that there is a recession 2020 coming up. Will it have an effect on startup arena? Of course it will have an effect. It will not just have an effect on the startup arena, it will have an effect on the stock market, it will have an effect on the real estate market, on the trading market, because that's what recession does. It dries up funding, right? So there'll be lesser funding, and that is why my workshop is actually very, very good. We are trying to develop startup ideas that have the chance to go off with as little funding as possible and then go and develop revenue streams. So we are the kind of workshop platforms that do not matter whether there's a recession or there's a boom. So yes, the recession, the potential recession, is going to dry up the conventional startup scene. And just for your knowledge, 2015, 16, 17 has already seen lesser funding coming into at seed level and more funding coming into C and D levels. Why? Because investors are more comfortable investing in successful ideas than new risky ideas. So your chances of not getting funded is very high unless you kind of take what I'm saying very seriously. Kashif Sheikh has said, will the ideas be confidential? Like I said, send me an email that says that this idea is related to you. You can't say that you own this idea unless you talk to a lawyer. So you need to either talk to a lawyer or send me an email that tomorrow you can produce in court and say, I have discussed this before anybody else. Sheikh Saidur Rahman says, I've started a business, I needed help. Well, Sheikh, I'm here to help you, but you need to send me something on my email to understand what your business is. Bhaskar says he has a good startup idea. He's not successful because he does not have funds. Well, let's see how we can help you with that, because it's not about the funding, it's about what your startup idea is. If it makes sense, then you'll get investors. Abdul Hamid says he has a startup idea that's not really new, but this is an idea that others have not covered with. They have not thought about. Well, that's what you do, right? So if I ask you, what do you find as a problem with Amazon? You will come up with 5. What do you find as a problem with Paytm or PayPal? And you would give me a few. And that's what good startup entrepreneurship is all about, looking at those problems and creating a business idea from them and avoiding those problems and giving more value proposition to customers. Sayed Hidayat says he has an existing business called Capto. He has around 1.3 lakh customers. That's more than a million something customers, and over 50,000 bookings. You're looking for business models and financial assistance. Sayed, I'd be more than happy to discuss with you once you share some information with me, but we'll have to take that offline. Arsh Mukadam says that startups with VC funding are building market valuation based on market share, not on revenue or profit. Well, yes, of course they are, but then that's why 90% of them are falling flat, right? So when you value your business based on hype and based on assumption, then the only thing you're doing is living on hype and assumption. Whereas when you have revenues, when you have profit, then people know how to measure you because there's a yardstick that everybody can follow. Yes, Muhammad Ali, I will be sending the recording of this session. No, Salman, the session is not over. We are still doing a Q&A, as you can see. Anthony says he has a digital transformation idea. It's been up there for 2 years. Are you eligible for the next step? Of course you are. You just need to follow what I said. If you followed what I said, even if you're a 2-year-old business, you just revisit that stage of validation. And if you qualify, then I'll take you to the next stage. Maksud says, recruitment business idea with training programs. That's what LinkedIn does. That's what Glassdoor does. It's still a great idea, great business to be in. Irfan says he has 2 different business ideas, one in the leather industry, another in HR consulting. Your marketplace or your target market area depends on what your products are. It depends on who your customers are. Depends on which price bracket do you fit in. Depends on who are you competing with and what are you trying to achieve. So I can obviously look at that once I see more details, Irfan. Samad Karim asked me, how good is it to start business outside your own home countries? Well, it is good as long as you can service that business, you know. The idea is not about trying to do business inside or outside. The idea is to basically do business that you can manage and service. Shireen says she has different ideas that she's working on, but she's not very sure because a part of her tells her one thing and the other tells her another. Well, Shireen, this is something that most entrepreneurs go through. So you need to first come down to trying to use which of the 6 approaches that I talked about earlier that you want to follow. Is it your skill set? Is it a problem that you're facing? Is it a correction in the market that you're doing? Are you helping a successful business? You need to choose one of the 6. Once you choose one of the 6, then I can help you with which is a better idea for you, Shireen. At the summit, Mukadam says, does an MBA make someone a better entrepreneur? No, it doesn't. It doesn't. Not at all. Entrepreneurship has got nothing to do with education, people. You should all realize that. Entrepreneurship is all about your ambition, your passion, your dedication, your ability to go through details, and most importantly, your ability to get the idea right. It doesn't have anything to do with an MBA, an engineering degree, not at all. You have it, good for you. You can use it to make an idea, but that does not really qualify. Hamid Kifayatullah says he's ready to spend all time in becoming an entrepreneur. The problem is that his family thinks this is a risk. This is a huge risk. Well, that's what entrepreneurship is. It's a risk. You know, either you make it or you break it. I'm telling you, all of you again, close to 90% failures. 90% failures. So you all need to understand that entrepreneurship is not everybody's cup of tea. Okay? Hafiz Adnan Rashid says most of the business flops due to they don't follow business fundamentals. They don't follow something that makes a business work or a business float. You have to realize that whether you're an entrepreneur or a conventional businessman, you still have to pay salaries, you still have to pay rents, you still have to buy from suppliers, you still need to keep suppliers happy, you still need to keep customers happy. And guess what? After all of this, you need to make some money, which is called profit, and then you need to sustain your own personal life as well. So yes, that is the reason why most startup businesses fail, because they refuse to understand business fundamentals. Sagar Kumar Bhardwaj asked me how to judge someone to add person into the team for business growth. Very simple, Sagar. You look at what is your business and who you want that can add value to your business. And that's the only thing. You're the best person to qualify. Nobody can tell you that this entrepreneur, this mentor is good or this mentor is bad. All right. Now I'm going to take a break for 20 minutes. I have to go pray and come back. And I will see you all. You may keep asking me the questions here. I'll come back in 20 minutes. And then for the next 20 minutes, I'll try to answer as many questions as I can. All right. Thank you, everybody. And I'll be back in 20 minutes. Thank you. You want to shut that?